She said I snored too loud. That was the official reason. The kind of excuse that sounds harmless enough, like it's just about sleep cycles and noise levels and needing rest. But even then, I knew it wasn't about snoring. It started small, like it always does. She'd nudge me in the middle of the night, soft at first, then with a kind of irritation that felt deeper than the moment. "You were snoring again," she'd mutter. Then, after enough nights of that, she just looked at me one evening and said, "Maybe you should sleep downstairs. Just for a little while. Just for a little while." I remember how she said it, like she was offering a temporary solution, like she was being generous about it. But something about the way she avoided my eyes told me it was anything but temporary. We'd been married 7 years. Long enough to get lazy, I guess. Long enough to start thinking habits were love and silence was peace. Her name was Danielle. She was always calm, always organized, always polite. But lately, she'd become a kind of stranger with a familiar face. The house still smelled like her perfume, but the air between us was colder than anything HVAC could fix. So I moved downstairs. We had a pull-out couch in the den, thin mattress, metal frame that creaked if you shifted too hard. It became my bed. At first, I tried to make the best of it. Bought new pillows. Got a heavier blanket. Watched late-night shows with the volume turned low. I told myself this was a phase. That she'd miss me eventually. That we'd laugh about it later. Weeks passed. Then months. She didn't miss me. At least, not in the way I missed her. She still made coffee in the mornings, but not for me. Still folded laundry, but left my shirts in the basket. Still said good night, but from the top of the stairs, like a teacher dismissing class. I miss being wanted. I miss the casual touches, the way she used to run her fingers through my hair when we watched movies. I miss the intimacy, but more than that, I miss the connection. It felt like I had been exiled from my own life. Like I was being punished for something I didn't even remember doing. And every time I tried to bring it up, she'd deflect. "You're reading too much into things. I'm just tired. Can't we talk about this later?" Later never came. I started staying out longer. Took on more hours at work. Even started doing side gigs on weekends just to avoid being home. Coming back to that empty couch, knowing she was upstairs in our bed, never once inviting me back, that started to feel like slow torture. Then came that night. It was a Friday. I'd finished early, installed job canceled last minute. I didn't text her to let her know I was coming home. Thought I'd surprise her. Maybe we could order takeout, sit on the back porch like we used to. When I walked in, the house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV. No music. Just silence. I set my keys down and walked toward the stairs. For a second, I almost called out her name. But something stopped me. Some part of me, call it instinct, call it fear, told me to keep quiet. I took the stairs slow, one at a time, heart thudding like a drumbeat in my ears. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Light spilled out in a thin line across the hallway carpet. And that's when I heard it. Not words. Not even whispers. Just laughter. A low, breathy kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. It wasn't loud, and it didn't last long. But it was real. And it was enough. I pushed the door open. She didn't even hear me open it. That's the part one keep coming back to. They were so wrapped up in each other, they didn't notice the door creak, didn't hear my boots on the hardwood, didn't sense me standing there like a ghost at the edge of my own damn life. She was in bed. Our bed. His shoes were by the nightstand. His shirt on the floor. She was laughing into his neck like I used to watch her do with me, before the snoring complaints, before the couch. She saw me first. Eyes widened. Mouth open like she wanted to speak, but no words came out. Just silence. He turned, confused, then alarmed. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, looking at the two of them. My wife. And some man I didn't know, who had taken my place not just in my bed, but in the last ounce of tenderness she had left to give. Then I turned around. Walked downstairs. Sat on that couch like it was my throne of heartbreak. And I didn't cry. Not then. Not yet. I just stared at the ceiling and thought, so this is how it ends. Not with a fight. Not with a scream. But with the quiet click of a door I should have opened months ago. I didn't move for what felt like an hour. Just sat there on the couch, staring at nothing, hands resting on my thighs like they didn't know what else to do. I didn't hear her come downstairs. I only noticed her when she hovered near the hallway, wrapped in a robe she used to wear for me. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice shaky. I didn't even look at her. "You need to get him out of the house." She opened her mouth, probably to explain, or defend, or say something useless like it's not what it looked like. But maybe she saw something in my face, something final, because she didn't argue. She turned, walked back upstairs, and 5 minutes later, I heard the front door open and shut. Then, finally, silence. I looked around that room. The blanket tossed on the end of the couch. My work boots lined up by the door. The framed photo of us at the lake still sitting on the mantel. All these little remnants of a life I thought we were still living. I slept on the couch that night. Not because she told me to. Because I couldn't stand the idea of laying in that bed again. Not ever. The next morning, I packed a bag. Jeans. 2 shirts. Razor. Deodorant. My grandfather's watch. That was it. I left the rest. Let her have it. The drawers, the closets, the coffee mugs. I didn't care anymore. I just needed out. She was in the kitchen when I walked through, arms crossed, eyes red. "Please don't do this," she said. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And it hit me how far gone we were. "You did this," I said. She didn't argue. That silence again. Heavy. Loud in its own way. I moved into a friend's guest room for a while. Quiet place out in Franklin. Couple of horses in the back pasture. At night, I'd sit on the porch and just breathe. For the first time in a long time, I felt the weight lift. Not all at once, but just enough to know I'd made the right choice. She started calling, leaving voicemails, then texts. First they were defensive, then they were sad, then they were desperate. But I didn't answer. What could she say? That she was sorry? That it was a mistake? Sleeping with someone is not a mistake. It's a decision, one that requires intention, time, repetition. You don't accidentally laugh in someone's arms in the bed you banished your husband from. I started therapy. First session, I barely spoke. Just stared at the floor while this soft-voiced woman named Helen waited patiently. But over time, the words came. The pain. The questions. I told her everything, from the couch exile to the slow emotional death I lived through. And something she said stuck with me. She said, "You didn't just lose a marriage. You lost your witness. The person who was supposed to see you every day and say, 'I still choose you.'" That hit like a hammer. Because that's exactly what it was. I hadn't felt chosen in years. I felt tolerated. Like background noise in my own home. 3 months after I left, I got served the divorce papers. Not from her. From my attorney. I'd started the process. Quietly. Like a man finishing something already dead. I didn't feel rage. Or relief. I felt empty. Like I'd just stepped out of a burning house and hadn't realized how hot it had gotten inside until the air outside felt clean again. She tried one last time to see me. Sent a long message asking if we could meet, if I'd give her a chance to explain. I stared at that message for a long time. But I didn't reply. Because here's the thing, it wasn't about him. It wasn't about that night. It was about everything before it. The nights I reached for her and got shrugged off. The mornings I left coffee on the counter without a thank you. The way she made me feel like a guest in my own life. When you love someone, really love them, you don't need to be perfect. But you do need to show up. She stopped showing up a long time ago. She just didn't think I'd notice. Or maybe she thought I'd stay anyway. Because I had, for so long. But I'm done staying in places where I'm not seen. 6 months later, I rented a small apartment on the east side. Nothing fancy. Just 2 rooms and a view of the sunrise. I bought a new couch. One that doesn't fold out. Because I'll never sleep on a couch for someone else's comfort again. Sometimes, in the quiet, I still hear her laugh from that night. Not because I miss her, but because it reminds me what it feels like to be erased. And I never want to feel that again. The hardest part about walking away wasn't the pain. It was the fear that maybe I was overreacting. That maybe I'd regret it later. But I don't. Because now, when I lay in bed, alone, I feel peace. And peace, my friend, is better than sleeping next to someone who only notices you when you're gone.